Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going through the processes of the project management body of knowledge, and we're starting with an overview of the first one, which is project integration management. Now we'll be looking at this particular table quite a lot as we go through the study for your PMP or CAPM exams, and this is where we sit. Basically, we can see the whole thing. This is why it's really great to do. I encourage you to actually write something out like this yourself so that you really get a feel for where everything fits in the project management body of knowledge. And for project integration management, this is all of our process groups up the top. And so this is our first knowledge area on the left here. And as you can see, there are other knowledge areas like scope management, schedule, cost, quality and testing. There's risk and resources, all of the things that you'll need to make your project a success and to make it happen and to get it through to delivery and finalize that project as well. But starting at the very beginning, this is where we are in project integration management. So there are a few processes in project integration management. First of all, we're developing that project charter to initiate the project. This is how we get the agreement from all of the stakeholders, and the sponsor will usually create that project charter and help us initiate that project. Then we're developing the project management plan. This is all the bits and pieces, the scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, all of those different subsidiary plans are put into the project management plan, and that's how we manage our project over time. And we sort of keep everything in there and keep it up to date. We're directing and managing the project work, of course, as we're going along, using the project management plan. And then we're managing project knowledge, usually using your project management information system. That can be online, it can be on a computer, or it can be a document. It could be a physical document if it needs to be. And it just depends on how, all of those things will depend on how you choose to manage the project. There are different tools available, and we'll be going into those as well as we go along. We're monitoring and controlling the project work, so making sure that it stays on track, and if it doesn't, what do we do about that? Usually what we do about that is perform integrated change controls. So we might need to make a change to our project, maybe to the scope, maybe the cost is going off track, maybe the schedule is going off track, and we need to make a change and get that approved by the people involved, usually your sponsor or the necessary people involved in the project. And lastly, we're closing the project or the project phase. So you might have different milestones in your project, delivering pieces of your project, for example, or you might be closing off the project as a whole. So what are the things involved in that? And this is one of the things that's really mostly for a project manager to do. So project integration management, it's all of those processes to identify, define, combine, unify, and coordinate the various project management activities across all of the project management groups. So we're taking all of those processes and we're putting it usually into the project management plan, and it's how we do that. We're integrating all of those processes into the one form, which is what we perform as a project manager, and that's the role that we perform. Of course, to do that, we need to do things like balance the competing demands of the project and maybe the stakeholders. What resources are we allocating? Who is doing what and why? And we're tailoring those processes to meet the project objectives. We may not need to use all of those processes, or we may just use a small amount of one instead of a large, depending on the type of project that we're looking into or actually delivering. So key concepts for project integration management. This is specific to project managers. It cannot be delegated or transferred. This is what the project manager role or a project officer or whoever's leading the project will have to do. And we're ensuring that the deliverable due dates are aligned. We're ensuring a project management plan to achieve the project objectives. That's our big one. And that's where all of these processes will ultimately feed into, as you will see as we go along. We're ensuring the creation of the use of appropriate knowledge. So, have we listed the activities of the project? Have we listed the scheduled dates of the project? And have we put them into our project management information system so that everyone can see what's expected and what we are delivering? We're managing the performance and changes. We're measuring and monitoring the project's progress. Are we on track for our cost? Are we on track for our time? And if we're not, what steps do we have to take to put it back on track? These are really important things. We're collecting data on those results that we've achieved so far and analyzing them to see whether we need to make changes or not. We're formally closing each phase as we go along. Maybe, and especially with Agile, we might be delivering a feature and that feature might have different parts to it, and different teams might be developing those parts, but ultimately we're delivering a feature that might be a milestone, for example, that you're finishing. And if we're closing off that milestone, then it's closed and we're moving on to the next one. And of course you can do that for the whole project as well. And then managing phase transitions when necessary. So moving to that next phase. Now, emerging trends in project integration management. First of all, it's about combining results from all of the other knowledge areas, as we've seen. So we might see things like automated tools. Now, this involves collection of our data. We might be using a Kanban board like Trello or Jira, for example, or we might be using Microsoft Project or other online tools that we can use to collect all of this information and show it to people very easily. That involves visual management tools, so making it visual for our people, making it easy for them to see where we're up to, what's being worked on. Project knowledge management, again, relates to all of these two things as well. How is it done? And are we going to automate it? Are we going to put it online, or are we going to keep it nice and secret in a secret document folder, or however it is? And it will depend on the project that you're working on. Expanding the project manager's responsibilities. So this involves some projects you're working on, the project manager will work on the charter or the business case as well. So that's really before a project is initiated, those two things. And that involves doing a feasibility study for the project. So what's the cost involved? What's the benefit involved? Is it actually worthwhile for us to do this project in the first place? And lastly, hybrid methodologies. We will see this a lot because it's not just so waterfall is your sort of methodology as we have seen before we got to this point, but waterfall you've got where we've got the scope up front and then we're delivering all in one bang. That's our delivery date. But of course we've got other methodologies like iterative, where we're iterating over the product, improving it and then delivering in one bang. We've got incremental, where we're actually delivering features, feature-driven development from Agile, or increments of our product, and then finally, then it's all delivered at the end. And Agile, which is a combination of iterative and incremental approaches. So there's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that you can manage your project. These are the hybrid methodologies that you will come across in your project management career. Now, we've also got tailoring considerations for project integration management. So what project lifecycle are we going to use? And development lifecycle, that's what we saw there. Is it waterfall? Is it agile? Is it incremental? Is it iterative? Or is it some combination of those? What management approaches will you want to use? Will you look to being a servant leader where you're facilitating things and coaching your team? Or is it more of an autocratic style where you're really just one person telling everyone exactly how things should be? Choose your management approach. Knowledge management, as we've seen, many different things that you might use. What programs are you going to use to put all of the activities, the dates, the cost, and put those in a place that everyone can see? How are you going to manage the change? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be through those tools? What tools are you going to use? The governance. So is there governance in place already in the organization? Are you working through a project management office? Do they have tools and templates? Do they have a set way of working? Or is it more ad hoc and you have to sort of make it up as you go along? This is very important to know for project integration management as a project manager. The lessons learned. Can you grab the lessons learned from previous projects? Or can you put those lessons learned for yourself for future projects? And lastly, benefits as well. So how are the benefits captured? How are we measuring those as part of the organization? And of course, agile and adaptive. environments. So this is a newish field, but you'll definitely come across this in this day and age as part of your project. So is it an agile approach that you're using? And if so, it's more of a collaborative decision-making environment, ensuring that the team has the ability to respond to changes as you're going along. So it's not just set in stone, there will be changes, and how do you respond to those? Usually using the right project lifecycle, as we saw, iterative or incremental, and there'll be more information on that in the project management body of knowledge as we go along. And that is the overview of project integration management.